Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 171. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Book Insight Friday, and we're on the last part of Kids with Guns. So, we're going to delve into this character development. I'm going to talk about the last few characters that I incorporated into this 5-book series, and it's going to be a good one today. And next week, I don't know where I'm going to go, in what direction, as far as Book Insight Friday. But I've always got something rolled up my sleeve, so that's besides the point. I will say that this has been fun to do, and it's different than what I've normally done, for the past, year or so with my podcast, as far as Book Insight Friday. And I would say it's been fulfilling to share what goes on in my mind and what goes into writing the characters that I put in my stories and why. And it gives you all of what I'm feeling and what's chugging away in my mind. So let's delve into this. So Anthony, who is the prosecutor for the trial of Matthew and Max, and having a hard-nosed, tough prosecutor was the goal for this series. I knew how I was writing this guy from the get-go. And while Anthony is not in all the books throughout the series, it was important that I establish him as a major part of this book series because he needs to be noticed from the get-go. And I did my best to put him out there in part 2 of the series and then continuing into the trial, which is part 3 of the series. And obviously, he was fun to write, as I have never written a character in a trial setting, so it was different for me to write a character in how he's thinking and what he's, processing in his mind as the trial is going on. And he's surely a character you won't forget in the series, even though I didn't want the whole focus to be on him. But you know what? It's a rarity that when school shootings unfortunately happen, that we actually have a trial. So I wanted to shine light on that and pretty much have a gritty court case with this series. Brian, who's the defensive attorney for Matthew and Max. Now, Brian was a character that I had intentions of writing about with an uphill climb mindset because he knows his clients committed one of the most heinous, horrible crimes in U.S. history, and he has to maneuver and find ways to get an acquittal for 2 teenage kids. Now, 2 kids who were given all of the necessary tools to commit this act. It's all a blame game, but he's also in a courtroom battle with his foe Anthony. And it's not their first rodeo in the courtroom, so I wanted to bring that feel to it too. And I expressed that in the series so you guys, pretty much can be prepared for what's to come. And I wrote Brian in the sense of he's going to point the finger at plenty of situations and people that led to these young kids committing such a horrific, violent act. It's what any defensive attorney would do to help in describing what their clients experienced and went through. And it was writing a cause and effect aspect to this, and hopefully I was able to provide that when Matthew and Max went on trial for their crimes. And this was a challenge for me, and as always, I feel that I achieved greatness with this, but I can feel great about writing it the way I wrote it, but I always come back to you guys. It's what you guys feel. Alyssa, who is the judge of this trial, and having a woman as the head judge was already established when I started planning out all of these books pretty much. And while Alyssa is only in 2 books of the series, she's important in establishing and maintaining order in the courtroom. And she's a powerful figure, and I wanted everyone to know that women in high positions in certain fields are imperative to show. And it's also important to know that Alyssa is dealing with 2 of the most powerful men in Brian and Anthony in their respective fields. So just think of what Alyssa is having to manage: a powerful defensive attorney, powerful prosecutor, the national news media, everyone in the courtroom, the jurors, witnesses, and a myriad of other things. And I wanted to show this and the 2 books she was in, and hopefully I accomplished that with writing her. And as I said with Anthony and Brian, I've never written anything regarding a trial, and seeing things on scripted television isn't always reality. So to backtrack, let's kind of go back to Judge Ito from the O.J. Simpson trial in 1994, which was important for me to watch clips of that from documentaries that they've done over the past 30 years. And I do also remember, certain parts of the trial. In 1994, I was 11 years old when that whole O.J. Simpson situation happened. I wasn't completely immersed in it, but I was very well aware of what was going on in that whole situation. And to really bring it back, ESPN did an amazing documentary on June 25th, 1994, and it goes through the events of what was going on that day in the sports field. And me being an 11-year-old kid, I was a big sports. I was a big sports fan. I'm still a big sports fan. What am I saying? But anyway, I'm from New York, and in 1994, the New York Knicks, if you guys are, involved or watch sports of any kind, the New York Knicks were playing in the NBA Finals against the Houston Rockets, and 20,000 people are watching, the biggest games and on the biggest stage. And while that's going on, O.J. Simpson's in a Bronco driving on a California highway, and that's being showed on a big screen in Madison Square Garden. So just looking at that and remembering that, and then remembering Judge Ito and how he handled himself, in a trial, pretty much the trial of, that century at that time, it was something that I kind of wanted to go back and look at, because remember, I study a lot and I want to bring my stories to light, but that's always the goal for me. And I always feel that, to put women in positions of power, that was, important to me also. So that was a big reason why Alyssa was a judge, in this series. Layla, she is the lead juror for all of the jurors for the trial. And Layla was one of the most important components to Kids with Guns 3 and 5. The trial's part 3, and part 5 is the ending for a lot of characters and their thoughts and feelings on gun control in America. And once again, a woman who is in charge of others was important for me, and I made sure that I made a woman the head juror for all of the other jurors of one of the biggest cases in history. And while this is a fictional book and it's a fictional story, I've got to make sure that I do things the right way. And not only is Layla making sure no one is being influenced by outside forces, she's controlling personalities, staying away from the media, not seeing her family for a long period of time, and trying not to be biased in her thoughts and feelings on gun violence. And you have to think, everyone has kids in their families, whether it's their own or within their families, whether it's nieces, nephews, godchildren. It was also important to incorporate Layla's feelings before the trial, during the trial, and after the trial, and the mental toll it takes 5 days a week to be in a courtroom for the majority of the day, and then going to a hotel to be confined to your room with security all over the hotel. Imagine how much your life changes when something like this happens. How would you handle it? And those are the things I want you all to think about. So, that is the ending of all of my characters. And boy, this has been fun to do. And I hope you enjoyed my insight into all the characters that I wrote in this 5-book series. And it's a different spin on how I write and how important it is to write these kinds of books and these book series. And my Kids with Guns series is available on all platforms except Amazon. And if you're wondering why, I will address it, but it's not going to be anytime soon because I have a few podcasts that I have planned in the works, but I am going to really delve deep into the reason why I removed all of my books off of Amazon. It's it's gonna be with good reason. But with that said, Kids with Guns series is available on Barnes and Nobles, Apple iTunes, Kobo, Scribd, Biblioteca, Vivleo, a few other platforms. But you can find Kids with Guns. You can type my name, Jamel Crothers, and find it on whatever platform if you choose to go down that road. Audiobooks are not available yet for the Kids with Guns series, unfortunately, because I've been writing so much and creating and doing a lot of different things, this podcast, all this other stuff, and I have to finish recording the Code Blue series in audio format. I have to finish recording the Struggles and Growth of a Man series, and then I'll get to the Kids with Guns series. So I'm not going to give a time frame, but I will say somewhere along the lines next year in the spring, I will say that the Kids with Guns series in audio will be available if you wonderful people who are listening are audio people and are immersed in that. So with that said, that's my podcast for today. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.